Imagine a story so old, so deeply woven into the fabric of human history, that it predates even the earliest written words. A tale of a desperate girl, an impossible task, and a sinister deal with a mysterious figure who holds the power to change everything. What if I told you that the fairy tale of Rumpelstiltskin, a story we've all heard as children, hides a secret that stretches back over 4,000 years? A secret so ancient it might just change the way you see the world. Stick with me, because today we're diving into the hidden depths of this strange little story, peeling back the layers to uncover something truly astonishing. Welcome back, everyone. I'm thrilled to have you here as we explore the dark and mysterious origins of Rumpelstiltskin. Before we unravel the ancient secrets buried within this tale, let's start with the version most of us know. But pay close attention, because even in this familiar story, there are clues to something much older, something far stranger than a simple bedtime story. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived a poor miller who wanted nothing more than to gain the favor of the king. In a moment of desperation, he told a bold lie. He claimed his daughter had a magical gift. She could spin ordinary straw into pure gold. The king, hungry for riches, didn't hesitate. He ordered the girl to be brought to his castle, locked her in a room piled high with straw, and gave her a chilling ultimatum: turn it all into gold by morning, or face death. The poor girl was overwhelmed with fear. She had no such power, no idea how to even begin. As she sat weeping, the clock ticking closer to midnight, the door creaked open. In stepped a peculiar little man, his eyes glinting with something unreadable. He offered to help her, but not for free. The price for his magic was steep. First, her necklace, then her ring. Night after night, the little man returned, spinning the straw into shimmering gold. Each morning, the king's greed grew, and he demanded more. By the third night, the girl had nothing left to give. That's when the little man proposed a horrifying bargain. He would spin the straw into gold one last time, but in return, he wanted her firstborn child. Trapped, with no other choice, she agreed. By morning, the room was filled with gold once again. The king was so overjoyed with the wealth that he made her his queen. Time passed, and a year later, she gave birth to a beautiful baby. She thought her dark deal was behind her, a forgotten nightmare. But then, one fateful night, the little man returned. He had come to claim what was promised. The queen was devastated. She begged him to take anything else: gold, land, treasures worth millions of dollars. But the strange man shook his head and said, "Something living is more precious to me than all the riches in the world." Yet, perhaps touched by her tears, he gave her one last chance. If she could guess his name within 3 days, she could keep her child. Desperate, she tried every name she could think of. She sent messengers far and wide, across distances of hundreds of kilometers, to search for any clue. But every guess was wrong. Time was running out. On the final day, one of her messengers returned with a bizarre story. Deep in the forest, beyond a fox den, he had seen a small fire. Around it danced a tiny figure, singing a chilling rhyme. "Today I'll bake, tomorrow I'll brew, then I'll fetch the queen's new child too. It's good that no one knows my game, for Rumpelstiltskin is my name." That night, when the little man appeared again, the queen looked him in the eye and spoke his name: Rumpelstiltskin. He froze, his face twisting in shock and rage. "Who told you? Who told you?" he screamed, stomping his foot so hard that in some versions of the story he sank into the ground. In others, his fury was so great that he tore himself apart. This is a version of the story that was written down by the brothers Grimm in 1812. But here's something many don't realize. The Grimm brothers didn't invent these tales. They were collectors, preserving old folklore that had been told by word of mouth for generations, passed down through countless families around flickering fires. Rumpelstiltskin was just one of many stories they saved from being lost to time. Jacob Grimm, one of the brothers, believed these tales were far older than anyone imagined, rooted in a time before recorded history. And guess what? Modern research suggests he might have been right. In 2016, a group of researchers from Durham University and the New University of Lisbon decided to dig deeper. They used methods from evolutionary biology to study folk tales, treating them like living things that evolve and spread over time. By comparing thousands of stories from different cultures and languages, they created a kind of family tree for folklore. What they discovered was incredible. The story we know as Rumpelstiltskin belongs to a category called the name of the supernatural helper, and it's believed to be over 4,000 years old. Now, that doesn't mean the exact story of Rumpelstiltskin as we know it dates back to the Bronze Age. But it does mean that the core elements, the impossible task, the magical helper, the power of a secret name, appear over and over again across cultures and centuries. The names and settings might change, but the heart of the story remains the same. So why does this pattern show up everywhere? What are we remembering through these tales? Let's start by looking at one of the key elements of the story: spinning. Spinning isn't just a random task in folklore. It's a symbol that appears in countless stories. Think of Sleeping Beauty, who pricks her finger on a spinning wheel, or the miller's daughter turning straw into gold. To ancient people, spinning wasn't just a household chore. It was something magical, something tied to the very essence of life. In Greek mythology, the Fates were three sisters who spun the thread of life for every person. They decided how long you would live, and when your life would end by measuring and cutting that thread. In Norse mythology, the Norns sat beneath the world tree, Yggdrasil, spinning the destinies of both gods and humans. And in ancient Vedic traditions from India, the entire universe was seen as a vast tapestry of golden threads connecting everything in existence. To these cultures, thread wasn't just a thing, it represented life itself. And then there's the gold. Gold wasn't just valuable for its beauty or worth in dollars. It symbolized something divine, something pure, something eternal. So when Rumpelstiltskin spins straw into gold, it's not just a neat trick. It's a transformation of the ordinary into the sacred, the human into the divine. Later in history, this idea became linked to alchemy, the mystical practice of turning basic materials into something greater, like turning lead into gold. We often picture alchemy as medieval scientists in dark labs, but its roots are much older. It wasn't just about physical change, it was about spiritual transformation, about reshaping fate and reality itself. So when we see Rumpelstiltskin spinning gold, we might be seeing a glimpse of this ancient belief, a memory of a time when such transformations were thought to be real, powerful, and even dangerous. But where did this idea come from? And why does the help in these stories always come at such a terrible price? Researchers believe that stories like Rumpelstiltskin, with their theme of a supernatural helper whose name holds power, might trace back to the early Bronze Age, over 4,000 years ago. This was a pivotal moment in human history. For the first time, people learned to combine two ordinary metals, copper and tin, to create something new and stronger, bronze. Picture yourself as a villager back then, living in a world of stone and wood. Suddenly, a stranger arrives, covered in soot, carrying tools and weapons made of a shiny, unbreakable material. To you, this isn't just skill, it's magic, it's divine. The ability to pull metal from rock and shape it with fire was seen as a supernatural gift. The metalworkers who knew these secrets weren't just craftsmen. They were revered, feared, and sometimes seen as something more than human. This idea gets even more intriguing when you look at ancient myths. Many cultures didn't believe they discovered metalworking on their own. They believed it was taught to them by otherworldly beings. In the ancient text called the Book of Enoch, divine beings known as the Watchers came down from the heavens and shared forbidden knowledge with humans, including how to forge metal. In the Bible, there's Tubal-Cain, described as a master of bronze and iron. Across the ancient world, from Sumeria to the Norse lands, stories speak of mysterious figures, gods, dwarves, or spirits, who worked with fire and metal. They were often outsiders, living in hidden places like mountains or underground, speaking strange languages, and disappearing as mysteriously arrived. Sound familiar? It's a lot like our little man, Rumpelstiltskin, who appears out of nowhere with incredible power and vanishes just as quickly. But what does Rumpelstiltskin want in return for his help? Not gold, not land, not treasures worth billions of dollars. He wants a child. Why? The story never explains his reasons, and that silence might be deliberate. In many versions, he only hints at his motive with the line, "Something living is more precious to me than all the treasures of the world." Perhaps the original meaning was too dark, too unsettling for later audiences, so it was softened over time. In the ancient world, offering a firstborn child to the gods was seen as the ultimate sacrifice, the highest price you could pay for divine help. To us, this seems horrific, but back then, sacrifice wasn't always about cruelty. It was about giving up what you valued most to gain something sacred. In the Bible, God tests Abraham by asking him to sacrifice his son, Isaac. Archaeological finds in places like ancient Carthage show evidence of infant burials, possibly offerings to gods like Moloch. When people needed impossible help, the cost was often the same: a life. This brings us to another chilling question. Rumpelstiltskin isn't defeated by a weapon or a spell. He's undone by something much simpler: his name. This idea that names hold power might be the oldest part of the story. In ancient Egypt, pharaohs had secret names, hidden from all but a few, because knowing that name could control their soul in the afterlife. In mystical traditions like Kabbalah or Islamic teachings, the names of God weren't just words. They were believed to hold the power of creation itself. Speaking such a name could change reality. In the Bible, King Solomon is said to have used a magical ring to summon demons. And the first thing he asked each one was, "What is your name?" Once he knew it, he had power over them. A name wasn't just a label. It was a key to a being's essence, their strength, and their weakness. So when the queen speaks Rumpelstiltskin's name, she's not just guessing a word. She's breaking his power, unlocking a secret that gives her control. Of course, the name Rumpelstiltskin itself is a bit of a mystery. It's a playful German term, roughly meaning little rattlestilt, possibly tied to the sound of his work or his odd movements. But in every culture and version of this story, the helper's name is always strange, otherworldly, something that doesn't belong to the human realm. This isn't just a random detail. It might echo an ancient belief that supernatural beings, gods, spirits, or demons, spoke a different language, a sacred or divine tongue that humans couldn't fully understand. In many old traditions, these beings didn't just talk. They sang or chanted, their words full of riddles and hidden meanings. And in almost every version of Rumpelstiltskin, his name is revealed through a song or rhyme, chanted around a fire in the woods. This idea of divine speech as power isn't new. In the Bible, God creates the world simply by speaking, "Let there be light," and light appears. In ancient Egypt, the god Ptah spoke the world into being. Language wasn't just communication. It was a force, a tool to shape reality. So who or what was Rumpelstiltskin? Was he a trickster? A demon? A forgotten god? Or could he be a distant memory of the first metal workers, those who brought fire and transformation to humanity, but at a terrible cost? We often think of Rumpelstiltskin as a light-hearted fairy tale for kids, but look closer. His strange name, his ability to spin gold, his demand for a child, these aren't just made-up details. They reflect real beliefs from the ancient world, stories of fire-wielding gods, beings who spoke in riddles and rituals where names held the power to bind or banish the supernatural. Maybe this story isn't just a fantasy. Maybe it's a memory, a faint echo of a time when such beings walked among us, offering help for a price we can barely imagine, and who knows? Maybe they're still out there, hidden in the shadows of our world. If you found this tale as fascinating and eerie as I did, wait until you hear the hidden truth behind Jack and the Beanstalk. Click here to watch it now, if you're brave enough. I'll see you in the next video.